going to tie into the theme of this movie, which is truth.
Right.
And we can use that as a segue into themes. And usually for this section, John Michael, we each kind of give our what we think is the overarching theme and kind of talk about how we felt about that theme and if it hit you.
You want to kick us off, John Michael?
Yeah.
That's hard because there are so many themes.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, truth. I mean, you saw the end of the movie kind of ended with a quote by somebody that I can't remember that said to the younger generation who's basically constantly trying to seek out truth in their own spirits.
Yeah.
And to not stay in silence and that kind of stuff. So I guess maybe I don't want to just say truth. I don't know. That's the only one that comes to my mind.
Yeah, that's the big one. I think. It's just like the search for truth. Like, Nate, I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, so that's a great one. I'll kind of move into some more fringe ground since you said the middle ground.
I mean, like, even on the movie poster, it says, he's a district attorney. He will risk his life, the lives of his family, everything he holds dear, for one thing he holds sacred, the truth.
Justice, maybe. Justice,
truth, and justice.
And then I feel like this movie grapples with the idea of, like, what a patriot is.
Yeah. That's true.
Is a patriot someone who is loyal to what the government says, or is a patriot someone who's loyal to the founding ideas of what a country is? And so, in many other people's view in this movie, the lead character is not a patriot. But in his mind, he is. And this is a question that's been really prominent in the discourse of our country recently, and so it tackles that question. Another one that it deals with is corruption, right? And political power. So
my big one is truth and justice, kind of in one, kind of like a 2-in-1 thing, because like obviously Garrison is searching for truth because he wants there to be justice, and like there's a lot of, and obviously I agree with yours about patriotism, and he's like, there's that line where he says like the most patriotic act they could commit was like assassinating the president. Or I'm forgetting what line it is, but there was a lot of great lines where he's talking about patriotism. And I think, but with truth and justice, like the search for, I love how the movie hits on the theme that like the truth for truth and justice at times can be like very can bring on like negative consequences to yourself. Like obviously he loses the relationship with his family and his kids, and also like everybody hates him, and like regardless of whether obviously like his conspiracy theory that he was putting forward was true, which is obviously still debated today, and obviously the jury at that time didn't believe it was, but because obviously Clay Shaw was acquitted, but I think that really the movie was really trying to hit on that theme of like how truth and justice, the search for truth, is often to one's own detriment at times, and that obviously happens in.
I've got an interesting thought about this, y'all. I'm gonna kind of run this by y'all and see what y'all think. Tell me what you think about this idea. But I think underlying this film, not necessarily on the front, but is a struggle with the question of like where to draw political lines. And I think we're dealing with this question still today, because the general way that we draw political lines is down parties, Republican, Democrat for a long time in the United States. But this movie challenges us to view in a different way that a lot of the American public is beginning to view, even over the traditional views of party versus party. And this is establishment versus outsider, right? And you can see that within the lens of this movie, John F. Kennedy is not an establishment but an outsider. And that's why he provokes the ire of the establishment government. According to the theory.
Yeah, we have to, just to preface this whole thing, like this whole movie is about a theory that was put forward that is debated. It was debunked when it was originally brought forward. Anyways, and the theory,
right. And so, but I'm not even talking about the theory. I'm talking about the way it's challenging us to think. And this is something that we are dealing with today because Donald Trump is largely viewed as an outsider, and people vote for him not because he's Republican, but because he's an outsider versus what they view to be this evil, corrupt establishment, and there's other, and it's cool to see an outsider in this sort of frame of mind from the other side of the party, who's John F. Kennedy, and there's other examples of this. People who are outsiders who managed to get elected. So what do you think about that idea?
I definitely see that in the movie, how they're trying to like show how
You think that's a valid way to view politics?
John Michael, why don't you go and answer that one first?
You had to ask that question. Probably not.
Probably not.
Judging things by, they're an outsider, they're establishment, they're Republican or Democrat or they're independent is not really a good way. You judge them not because of who they are, because what party they identify as or anything, but what they want to do, their policy, no matter how long they've been there. Because we have good people who've been there for a very long time. I mean, I'm helping somebody who's been here for 12 years in the same position and helping somebody who wants to come into a new position that's never been in politics before. So you have that balance.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would agree. But I think another theme, and I don't know if y'all picked up on this, y'all probably did, was like the whole thing about how like power is like everything to most people, and like in the theory, the military-industrial complex, the CIA and the FBI want to get back at Kennedy, according to Garrison, because like he cuts back on their budgets, and he like doesn't want to pursue the war in Vietnam, which obviously where most of their revenue and like spending comes from. Right. And that power aspect, they want that power, and like power means everything to them. And just like other people in the movie too, like it's just power is like I think the theme of the movie is like, in short, that power like it consumes a lot of people. And that's what matters to them most, is like power. Like a lot of people, with like my history professor said several times, like the history is like the study of how things change. It's also the history of how power changes, like hands. And so this movie really is getting at that power determines a lot of what people.
Speaking of your history professor, do you want to go ahead and slip into our final section, the history section?
Yeah, for sure.
This might be a big one. We have a lot to talk about here. So let's just open the can of worms and.
So, John Michael, do you want to start us off by just kind of like, we already know what stance you're coming from and kind of what research you've done before reading the books and everything. But like, what was your just opinion on how they portrayed the Jim Garrison's case and just,
I like how they portrayed it in the movie.
Yeah, like in the movie, like how it was, obviously it was based on a book that he wrote.
Right,
So, I mean, they had some pretty good source material.
Right, I mean, I think they portrayed it, as far as the case goes, very well. I think the reason they may have left out a lot of the stuff that goes back to my negative is because he left out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
If you add in a few more pieces to it, the conspiracy theory kind of falls apart very quickly.
Okay.
So
wait, so to clarify, so you're saying that he never thought Jackie Kennedy had anything to do with it. That was something somebody else posited?
That's just something we've created ourselves.
So
that's not even a popular theory.
What's your position on the JFK assassination?
Yeah, are you a single shot killer?
Yeah, I am. Yes.
Okay.
Single shot?
Yes.
Meaning like it was Oswald.
Right. Yes, that's what I mean.
As one contrary to what this,
Right. I mean, I have questions about the legitimacy of the Warren Commission and things that kind of happened. There were very unqualified people there who missed a lot of things.
As the movie makes
but my question would be like, if they're unqualified and if they're missing things, what are they missing?
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think it changes the point that it was.
So they're unqualified, and just understanding your position, they're unqualified and they missed things, but they still came to the right conclusion?
In a sense, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but another question I got for you is like, how do you, in your studying of the event, like the whole thing about the shot coming seemingly from the grassy knoll in front, the one that they, when the famous line of the movie is like back and to the left because he's saying it's coming from the front, not the side. Like, what's the explanation for that in your mind?
The explanation for that, and they've done several scientific studies, is that part of that place in downtown Texas reacts as kind of like an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Where I live, we have the trees that surround us everywhere. Yeah. And if you were to yell out something at one corner of the neighborhood, it would sound like multiple in each different corner.
What about the smoke, though?
The smoke is interesting, and it really depends because they haven't done any studies on the weather during that day, so the wind. Depending on what that could have been like, or if there was any other activity that would have involved smoke.
Yeah. And then there's there's so many interesting conspiracy theories other than this one. Like there's the one that the dude with the black umbrella is like a signal. He's like signaling. Yeah. They kind of hinted at it, but that wasn't a big part of his Jim Garrison's idea.
You also mentioned before we went on air that there was a conspiracy theory about the Secret Service agent shooting him.
Oh yeah, there's one that the guy from behind. Tell us about that one. I can't.
That one, one's kind of like the Jackie Kennedy one. It's not really popular, but it's basically kind of like the guy that ran up to help.
Yeah. Like accidentally
shot.
Fired off a bullet.
And to protect him.
Okay. But was that after the first shot had been fired?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because just to clarify, because I
so confusing.
just to clarify, because it is confusing. So the first shot does not hit him. Is that right? According to what we know,
according to what we know, the first shot went, I think, past him, kind of like blazed his shoulder.
Hey, before we get any deeper into this, I just realized some people might not do you want to set up the basics of this scenario
of the assassination? Yeah. Kind of like what
how everything took place.
Like the basics.
Like what was JFK's situation going into this?
Okay. All right,
with the election and everything, right?
He was running for re-election, and he was going to be doing very well. He decided to go to Texas. It was very strategic because he was losing Texas.
Yeah.
To win the election, he would have to win Texas.
Yeah.
And Houston and Dallas and Austin were the three major cities, that still are the three major cities in Texas, and those are the ones that you always want to go to. So he actually been to all three. This is kind of like his last one that he went to. And so coming into the airport, there was a huge crowd and stuff like that. And they claimed there wasn't a lot of security clearance, but there was. Mm-hmm. Why there wasn't in the video that you see is because Kennedy himself asked them that they can't. Now we have laws that started back in the 80s that state that the president cannot tell Secret Service to not come.
Because that's a big part of Garrison's thing is that he thinks that there was a conspiracy to take away all the security.
Yes.
That's what Mr. X thinks. And
right. And Kennedy was the one that ordered that the bubble top not be placed on. Not that would have made a difference. The bullet would have went straight through.
Yeah, but it would have been concealment, not
cover. It would have been concealment. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he's there. He's trying to get real. It's part of his re-election campaign.
Yeah, and he wanted it to seem like he was more personable to people. That you were, even though he was in the car, he was still open to you.
Because I've always heard that he was kind of losing some popularity, at that time. He was a kind of not a desperate thing, but kind of.
Yes, and also it goes back to Jackie Kennedy. Of course, we know JFK was having an affair with Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
And Marilyn Monroe apparently killed herself. Not really killed herself, but overdosed. The year before Kennedy died.
Famous actress, sure.
And apparently Jackie wanted to keep the position of First Lady, didn't want to really lose her husband and sort of the reputation, and so she kind of kept silent on it, but secretly hated her husband, did not like any of it.
Okay. So now we have the situation set up, to the bullets. So the first bullet was fired, right? You said, is that the one that hit the guy in front of Kennedy?
Yes, so the governor of Texas.
Okay, what was Did he die? Okay. Did he die? Did he not die? He did not die.
He went into ICU, and it was a very intense surgery, but he did make it out about 3 days later, and he was fine.
Okay, so he gets hit by that first bullet, and then the second one Kennedy gets hit twice. Right?
Right. Okay, so wait, no, I got it wrong. So there were two bullets. One went through his neck.
Okay.
So right here.
And the last one took him out in the face.
Right.
Yeah. The last one was the brutal one.
Kind of like the side of the head. Because if you look at the car, whenever they hit him first, the car was kind of like in the center of the road. Whenever they hit it before, the Secret Service agent who was driving kind of looked back, and so it turned the car a little bit. Yeah. And that's why they kind of had the angle to the head.
Okay.
And then blew it off.
Okay, yeah.
The back of the head.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal if you watch that footage. They call it it was a guy named Zapruder was the name of the guy that filmed that, right? So they call it the Zapruder tape. Yeah.
Yes.
So what caliber was that?
Yeah, the gun. What was the gun?
We do know. I just can't remember.
That wasn't a 22. That's for sure.
No.
That was like 308 or something.
So then all right. So and then we got to talk a little bit obviously about the magic bullet theory. So where does that come into play, and what do you think about that?
So the magic bullet theory is kind of like laughing in the face of people who believe it was one person.
Okay.
To think that there were, of course, multiple bullets, we know. And what happened is, if you set them in places as they were, it would make sense. But taking them off and laying them on a bed and working on them, it looks like different bullets hit them in different places, and it didn't really match up to the press.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of chaos going on. And so the theory was that it traveled multiple different places, saying, no, that can't happen. There were multiple people with multiple guns who made this happen this way. So you have to look at it in perspective of where they were sitting.
But I thought the magic bullet theory was used by proponents of the one shot, or the one killer theory.
I don't think so. I think it was used to kind of make fun of people who thought it was one person, to say, hey, this can't actually happen.
And he uses that in his...
Yeah, it's kind of like
but
an example, this just can't happen.
But where did that diagram come from? That whole...
I really don't know.
Well, he said that the FBI made that up.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, he said that the FBI talked about how like ballistics could work that way.
Yeah.
And so
Because obviously, he uses that as evidence as like this can actually happen.
Uh-huh.
But because he said it like entered the one bullet was the one that killed him, right? Or was it the bullet that hit him in the head that they say is the magic bullet, or the first one?
So the first one's supposed to be the magic bullet. The second bullet was the one that
they
did
said,
the deed.
So the magic bullet theory says that it goes through his throat,
as if he would
right?
have survived.
And then like down, somehow it ends up in it goes through the other dude too, and then it ends up in that guy's wrist.
Yes.
Okay. And so
that's pretty weird.
Yeah. Okay. So the magic bullet theory is used by proponents of the multiple.
Right.
Oh no! It's used as to debunk the single killer.
That it's not possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, I got you. So what evidence shows that how that could have happened though?
How that could have happened?
Like the single killer theory, like.
As in, like, what I believe for this one person. Yeah. So if you look at where they were sitting, if you have like Kennedy right here and you have Connolly right here, who was actually a little bit over to the left.
Yeah.
If it went through Kennedy's neck, it would have went down the side of Connolly, which took out his fifth rib, which is true, and went down to his wrist.
Yeah, okay.
His wrist was about right here if you look at the footage. So it kind of took out that and his wrist, which makes sense.
Okay, so it is scientific. It is a viable explanation.
Right,
actually,
and there have been studies done that shows the path of the bullet and how it could be